We are a telecommunications research lab. In India, we are based out of Bangalore, but we are headquartered in New Jersey, in US. And this is just a timeline of several inventions that happened in Bell Labs, starting from television to cellular phones to laser, programming languages, TV, etc., etc. And a big portion of our entire organization works on these sort of cutting-edge technology. But in India, one of our focus is how do we design technologies for emerging markets. And we have been doing projects around mobile banking, financial literacy, crowdsourcing platforms which provide livelihood to people in rural areas, and in general improving internet access and penetration. So about 4 or 5 months back, we started thinking of this problem that if you look at the sort of internet penetration numbers, it says that there are about 121 million internet users in India, and 80% of them come from urban cities, and vast majority is sort of from the educated background. And the penetration at the grassroots is still very, very low. And by grassroots, I don't mean people who are like the poorest of the poor, but even, take your taxi driver or a grocery store owner. They have reasonable mobile phones, they have reasonable incomes, but still the internet penetration is very low. So let's look at the sort of argument that many people give why internet is not very popular. So if you ask people at the grassroots, they will say that internet is very expensive for us. There is not enough infrastructure, the cell phone towers, etc. are not around, so it's hard for us to use the internet. And when you go to mobile companies like Airtel or Vodafone and ask them that why don't you install mobile towers in these localities, they would say we don't have enough user base in this locality, so it doesn't make commercial sense for us. So it's like a cyclic problem. Unless you install the infrastructure, you won't get the user base, and to get the user base, you need the infrastructure. So internet penetration hasn't happened in emerging markets as much. So our approach was let's keep the cost and infrastructure issues out of question for now. Let's focus on how can we get enough user base for for internet and the web at the grassroots. And once we have this user base, let's go to Airtel and Vodafone and ask them why don't we subsidize the plans and why don't we install more towers. So how do we get this user base at the grassroots? That was the sort of key problem. And we figured out that the possible approach is if we somehow get reliable and relevant content to people at the grassroots using web, that can be one way to increase the user base. And so if you look at, talking about reliable and relevant content, there are other internet-based applications which these Airtels and Vodafones provide to, but they are all sort of very top-down design. They would push Bollywood songs or agriculture, top-level agriculture information, mythology. There is, all this is, there is very less local relevance in all this information. It's all top-down pushed. So we wanted to see if an alternative model is that some of the people at the grassroots, they can create this content and they are the consumers eventually. So this model is more locally relevant. And this is where we started working with community radios because as we all know, community radios are very vibrant content creation ecosystems and are quite popular in grassroots and create a vast variety of content ranging from agriculture and entertainment. So this was our sort of introduction, taking the broad problem of internet penetration. Then we zeroed in on community radios because they create that local relevant content that is of interest to us. So we visited a few stations just to know more about how they work. And PAD, Valoni in Madurai, and Sangam Radio Zahirabad, and Radioactive in Bangalore, with whom we actively collaborate. And these are our initial findings from our point of view, very initial. So we found the RJs to be highly motivated individuals. They were driven by several factors. We asked them why do you create content, and we found that fame is one, but things like community betterment, self-pride, and of course tangibles like money. So we found them overall to be very, very motivated. And the good thing was many of the RJs are actually using the internet. They do a lot of research over the internet to create their programs. So the initial problem that the content on the internet is not very relevant for the grassroots. The RJs are solving this problem to an extent by doing all the research themselves, then collating all the content and then giving it to the listeners. So we found the RJs to be familiar with the internet, and finally I think we found that they're pretty open to new ideas, to try out new things, which was very interesting, and I'll come why all these things matter later. Similarly, when we talked to listeners, we did sort of personal interviews. We had an IVR system where people called and left their feedback, and the major findings were that RJs were quite trusted in their respective listener communities, and they were well known. In many cases, they were treated as celebrities. People thought that the content that is coming from CR is much more relevant than other FM channels or mainstream media, and a lot of people said that we have a desire to interact more with the RJs. We want to talk to them personally, etc., and we want to sometimes contribute the content to radio stations. And similarly, we found that there are again limitations to this current CR model, that reach over CR is limited because of several factors. The problem that the content of the CR is quite fragmented, as in not CR but in general community media, because there are community radio initiatives, there are community video initiatives, then there are some text SMS based initiatives, and all this content, although it's meant for the same locality, they come from very different sources. So there's no sort of one unified place where you can get all kinds of content. So this content fragmentation we found existing in the grassroots. Then interactivity is a major problem because radio is a broadcast medium. I know IVRs and all can help, but inherently it's not very interactive. And then there's a problem that how do you archive content and how can people the listeners look for the previous programs, etc. And if you see a web interface, somehow doing it over the internet can solve many of these problems. Reach is of course solved by internet. It's a unified repository, so content fragmentation goes away. Internet is very interactive and you can search for content, etc. So this is like the broad model that we are proposing. So this is community radio, popular at grassroots, localized content, high content relevance, and a lot of community involvement. The problems: reach, interactivity, archiving, and fragmentation. When you look at web, potential to reach more users, interaction, unified content repository, etc. But it has several problems that it doesn't have enough content for the grassroots. It is hard to find content on the web. So if you go to Google and search for something, you get 1 million results or something. So for a person at grassroots, it's very hard to know which one is relevant for him and which one is reliable for him. So web has all these problems in its current form. So the idea is, if you combine both these, combine community radios with the web, it can help both the community radios to solve the problems that I listed above, and it can help the web penetration because of the relevance of the community radios. And this is how we are developing a technology platform. So in this, basically, whenever an RJ creates a regular program on his for broadcasting, he simply uploads the content on the web. We have a software or desktop application. You just right click on any MP3 file that you have and say upload to the web. That goes to a central server on which all this data is stored. In the second step, which is perhaps the most important step, this RJ actually recommends or advertises this content to the eventual listeners. So we have an interface where they can click SMS to my listeners or do a IVR phone call to my listeners, and all the sort of eventual listeners get notified that a content has been uploaded by your favorite RJ, so why don't you go and listen to it? And this recommendation can be made more targeted. Like if the content is about agriculture, the RJ can say inform it only to those people who are interested in agriculture-based content. So basically, this RJ recommended or advertises the content to the consumers, and because the RJs are very popular and there is a certain amount of trust and reliability, we believe that many of these people may go and access this content over the web, which may not happen in just going over google.com because there is no trust and reliability for that content. So we are really sort of tapping into the relationship that the CR station and the RJ has built with its listeners and trying to see if that can increase the internet penetration in India. I'll just show you some sort of screenshots of how it works. So any MP3 file that, or any sort of audio file that you have created for your programs, just right click on it and say upload. And that goes to a hosting server which is currently hosted by us, but can be sort of based locally at the station. So yeah, after you say upload, you can just select the name of the RJ and what kind of program is it. So it can be about whatever different categories, and just say upload. The program goes to the central server, and in the next step, RJ can sort of notify the exact listeners that I have uploaded this program. Why don't we go and listen to it? So it can be done over IVR or SMS or over the normal radio channels when they sort of do their programs. And as I said, the notifications can be very well targeted based on the content and based on the listeners. And in the final step, we have developed a Java-based mobile application which can run on actually very, very low-end phones. So we have tried it on phones costing like 3,000 to 4,000 rupees. The only thing the phone requires is it should support this Java platform, which practically most Nokia phones today support, and it should of course have a web-based interface. So we have developed this application, and I can give you a demo also. I have a phone with me. The listener basically starts this application. He or she sees the different kind of categories, selects some categories, selects the RJs that have created the program, and then chooses one program from that. And basically, yeah, that the program starts playing. So in a way, it's, I mean, you can say that internet streaming also achieves the same thing. If you create an internet stream at your station, but we have seen that a lot of these low-end phones do not support the internet streaming that we do over the standard protocols. So basically, the technology challenge was in designing, was in how do we deliver content on these very, very cheap phones, and that we have tried to solve in this problem. And of course, they can play the content, and the second thing is, of course, they can record any comments or any other suggestions that they have about the program. So just to make it very interactive, they can leave some comments for the RJs, and those things are also implemented.
So the comment goes back to the web server?
That's also audio.
Yeah, that's also audio. So they record a comment that gets linked to the program on which it was commented. RJs at the radio station can see all the comments and then reply back. And here also they can listen to other people's comments, what they had left. Yeah.
How do they record? Do you record on the phone or?
Yeah, you record on the phone.
Okay. So are you dialing any number? Or
No, it's all. The recording happens locally and it gets transmitted over web to the station.
It's like a mail. I have to attach it and I have to send it.
I mean, no, you don't have to do anything. Just say record and say stop it. And
so using this application.
Yeah. So you can leave different kinds of comments. You can listen to what other people have said. So those things are there. So and another, I mean, I don't have the screenshot for that, but as I said, this sort of specific content-based notifications are there. So the good thing about web is we can track each and every user's exact usage. I mean, I understand the privacy concerns, but I mean, you can know that person X has been listening to agriculture-based content for the last 1 month. So you can pretty much say that let's push more agriculture content to him. So there is also a screen in our application called notifications, and so there they get sort of more recommended content which is specifically designed for them. Like a farmer will get more agriculture content, or housewife will get cooking lessons or something like that. So those things are also there. So yeah, I think we are at a very initial stages. We started like 4 or 5 months back, and it's only technology as of now. We haven't done any extensive field tests, or I understand that we have to do a lot more things like how to take it to the ground, etc. That will require a lot of challenges. But for now, we just have this technology platform which can stream content over the web on very low-end mobile phones, and it lets you record comments, etc. And yeah, that's.